Hello, I am Payal Raina, founder of Fintech Marketing Community. Welcome to Learning from Marketing Leaders, a series of one-on-one conversations with leading marketing minds that possess a wealth of fantastic knowledge and experience in the financial and technology marketing space. Today, I am joined by Marta Izquierdo, head of European marketing at IG. Marta, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Marta, you have been working in marketing and PR for nearly 2 decades and working with IG for over 12 years now. So
Correct.
So tell us, tell us about the business. What does IG do? Your background, and how did you land it into your current role?
Absolutely. So my background is in journalism, and I also have postgraduate training on digital marketing and corporate communications. But how I landed on the financial services industry was quite by chance or accident. But I loved it so much, and as you were saying, I've worked for IG for over 12 years, and it's been such an experience. So I originally joined the Spanish office and had different roles for that branch, for the marketing side of things, and then as head of Spain and Portugal. And very recently, in December last year, I was appointed as head of European marketing for the group, which is a very exciting opportunity. So what that basically means is that day to day, I set a European strategy for the group and work at regional campaigns, and it involves lots of communication going back and forth to ensure that all of the stakeholders are aligned, and I work with the local team, so it's quite interesting. Now about IG, our mission is to empower informed and decisive people to access the financial markets. So we offer turbos and CFDs. We've been offering them offering financial services for over 46 years. So it's a well-established company, but also a very entrepreneurially minded, very startup oriented sort of mindset, which is really good. We try to really stay up to speed with all the technologies, which is why we consider ourselves a fintech, even if we've been in the game for so long now.
Fantastic. That sounds brilliant. Because, and of course, congratulations on your new role. It seems you had a really exciting career journey in that short period of time. And it seems like IG being a very kind of exciting place to work with. So that sounds
absolutely
really exciting. Marta, I know you're very passionate about inclusion and diversity, and that's one of those core themes which is quite close to the heart of fintech marketing community and for our members. And given fintech industry is facing a gender diversity problem, especially as per the new research, we know only 29% of women are being represented in the financial and technology space, which is quite a small number. And some of the issues that include, such as pay gaps, lack of diversity within the boardrooms, not having flexible working options, and of course things are changing, but not as quickly as we would like it to be. So, would be good to get your perspective on inclusion and diversity within the fintech space, and plus, what do you think the role marketers can play to kind of move this up on the business agenda of their firms they're working?
Absolutely. So I think first of all, I should say I am quite fortunate to work in a quite diverse and inclusive company. I think just the fact that we have a female CEO actually is quite telling of this. So we have a female CEO, our chief marketing officer is also a woman. So I think that one of the main problems in fintech, maybe in other industries as well, is the lack of representation, which is happily not a problem within IG. We have plenty of representation, which is really good. I think when it comes to marketing and gender, there are generally good ratios of women working in the marketing side of things. So I think it's more a matter of maybe a glass ceiling when you look at the ratios on entry level jobs or medium jobs, it's sort of okay. It's almost 50-50. And I think you start to see those ratios go down the more high up you go. So I think in that sense, there's possibly quite a lot of ground to cover when it comes to equal opportunity, and in order to get that sort of representation. I think representation is key when it comes not just to gender, also to LGBT plus and race and ethnicity groups. I think seeing someone that looks like you, that feels like you up there is really inspiring and empowering, because you feel that you can do it too. It's just a matter of hard work, but you can do it. So I think in IG, we've had very positive experiences setting up different networks such as IG Open, IG Black, or IG Inspire, which is a women's network. And I feel like generally we are a very inclusive company, which is not just the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, it's also the right thing to do from a business perspective. And I think the reason why in marketing you need diverse teams is that your target audience and your client base will not be homogeneous. Will you need like a diverse team to cater for a diverse audience, is what I mean. So I think it makes perfect sense to make sure that you're bringing different perspective, different experiences to the table in order to provide with the best possible marketing experience for your customers.
Yeah, no, no, you're absolutely right, because I was reading to McKinsey's research, and one of the McKinsey's research says that businesses that are having more a diverse group of representation at all levels in the organization, they are probably 95% more efficient. Their organizations are more productive compared to other organizations. So, and it's great to see that IG is kind of being more a leader in that space, and actually helping and setting examples, I would say, then for other organizations to get inspired and to actually look at how businesses like IG are doing things differently, and what other businesses can learn from it. So from a marketer's perspective, then Marta, what do you see? What can marketers, like, what can we do as a marketers to make sure that we have got those women networks being set up, we have got all those different representation is being is being moved up in the business agenda, because I know you have been passionate yourself in supporting and in empowering women in the workplace, and you have in fact successfully launched a mentoring program. So I guess it would be great to kind of get some guidance and advice from you, so other marketers can learn from your experience and perhaps use that same experience back in their business.
Yes, and that project was actually super rewarding for me, and something that, I mean, it may look like I helped others, but it was actually so rewarding for myself that I almost felt selfish because it was amazing to see it come together in the end. I think what marketeers can really bring to the table is our ability to communicate effectively, our ability in we're so used to talking to different people, different teams, putting things together and build communication schemes to really bring projects off the ground. And I think when it comes to this sort of networks, and the mentoring program is just an example, but you really need to get agreement, and not just agreement, like support from the senior management. And by support, I don't necessarily mean funding. Funding is great, but at the end of the day, is not crucial to really get these sort of programs or networks, or even like very specific projects such as a mentoring program. I think it's all a matter of being, first of all, able to communicate and be self-assured to go and pitch for something to the senior leadership team and be like, I think we need a program for women, or I think we need, or we could do more for the race and ethnicity area, or for the LGBT plus group. So I think it's all a matter of gathering that sort of support, and I think it's key to get that support for real. And what I mean is, you would need them to join the meetings, to join your events or attend those events, even if it's virtual these days. You would need them to blog about it on the intranet. So I think it's not just a matter of setting up a network, it's also a matter of getting like really buying them into it, and then communicating again. So I think you need to really talk to different groups, set up a newsletter, and pretty much, so once you have that sort of support from your senior or your executive committee, it's all a matter of really bringing the rest of the team together and finding other employees that would work with you. And the reason why I worked on the mentoring program is because I believe sometimes for certain groups is a little bit more difficult to find a sponsor or a mentor. If you think about women in particular, if you would approach a more senior, more experienced member of the company, and if you wanted to ask if maybe you can have coffee to pick his brain and understand more and learn more, it would feel maybe awkward. It would come across wrong, and it shouldn't, but it does. It's a cultural thing, which is why I became so passionate about. We need to make this something very corporate, very structured, so that it's not one lady asking for help from a more senior, usually male, because as of today, because of the lack of representation, most of the senior employees will be male. So you don't have to approach them and ask them for coffee. It's like a more set up environment in which you are doing this mentoring program, and it's all very structured, but it's still very useful. And I guess it would be the same to ensure that you're representing also race and you're representing other groups. So it's a matter of making sure that we have sponsors, we have mentors, we can learn from others. And sometimes, if everyone is male, if everyone is from a similar background and have similar hobbies and they spend their time in the same way, it can be difficult for other groups to join. If you're not into football, or if you're not into drinking beers at the pub, how are you going to network? How are you going to approach someone if you have childcare in the afternoon and you really need to go pick up your children from school and you cannot stay for drinks after work? How are you supposed to really make those connections? So I really believe that having those sponsoring, mentoring programs should really help in that regard.
Great. No, I think that's absolutely amazing, because you kind of given some so useful, handy tips for our viewers and listeners that, you know, they could actually take that back, and I'm hoping they can actually start implementing those key guidance which they've got from you. And I must say, you know, we are very fortunate at Fintech Marketing that for our mentoring program, you know, you would be one of our experienced mentors, which I'm really excited about, because, you know, it's all about learning from each other and helping to get better at our craft. So that sounds quite inspiring.
Absolutely.
Great. Marta, now, although it does sound exciting and it does sounds great, I'm just wondering, were there any challenges did you face when you were actually going ahead with, implementing your mentoring program in an organization? Were there any hurdles? Was there anything, objections which you might have come across? Although it does seem your organization is, you know, quite ahead in the curve, but yeah, if there were any, how did you face those challenges?
I think it's all a matter of trying not to repeat the work that somebody did before you. So I think it's really good to get in touch with networks existing in other companies, because it's not really challenging in a sense of you won't be able to do it. You will be able to do it if you get at it. But maybe by getting in touch with other networks in other companies, they can give you the tips and be like, okay, this is the pitch, or this is who you need to talk to, or this is how to convince HR, or this is etc. Right? And then there's a lot of work involved. So I would suggest, when you're trying to set something up, make sure it's not just on you. Make sure you put together like a committee or a working group, so that you find like-minded individuals that can help you along. And I would really highlight how you will need allies for that. So I would recommend, for example, for a women's network, you will need men at the committee, because it's important to come across inclusive even within the network. So if your whole objective is to be more inclusive and more diverse, then the network itself should be inclusive and diverse. And so it's finding allies, and pretty much it's a teamwork, right? to give you an example, the mentoring program was just a tiny fraction of what the IE Women's Network did and keeps doing. So I was working on that, but I was lucky enough to work on that and focus on that because I had many colleagues who were taking care of events, networks, seminars, communications, the microsite. So I would say try to get at least 4 or 5 colleagues that can work with you on that. Make sure you include some allies, so it's not just yourself. And again, you're bringing different perspective and experiences to the table. And then after that, it's all about communicating and getting support from the executive committee or senior management. Other than that, I guess social really helps when you need to reach out to people. And if someone is in this type of network, chances are they will be very likely to help out and be ready and even um, happy to act as a speaker. So as I said earlier in the interview, I don't think that funding is the key point in here. And I don't want to mention funding as a challenge or as a hurdle. I don't think you need a lot of funding. You probably need resources, as in someone to help out and do a newsletter or write a piece of news, or so that you can really get the message across. But other than that, you can reach out to other networks and even friends that you may have in other companies, and it's relatively easy to set it off the ground.
Yeah, because internal collaboration, as you're saying, is, if marketers have got that internal support and collaboration, then that would probably minimize any challenges or any hindrance on any kind of obstructions to your way, and that means you're kind of taking the whole team with you together, engaging with people as you did for your case in your company, and that kind of probably made things much more smoother and easier for you. So that's a really good tip there, to say make sure you get your collaboration, you get the buy-in from the stakeholders, and resources. That's absolutely a key must. This
I
is
think it's pretty much with like any other marketing project that you tackle.
yeah.
You need to manage your stakeholders. You need to communicate it out right. You need to get your priorities. And ideally, you'd get some funding. But I think we all have worked with tiny budgets at some point in our career.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we will all be able to pull it off without a lot of funding.
Amazing. No, I think those are absolutely fantastic tips and advice and guidance. I'm kind of really enjoying hearing that, and it's great to see that somebody who is doing within the women's network, within the organization, and doing it really well and successfully, and that's really quite inspiring in itself, because I'm sure a number of community members who are going to watch this video, they would absolutely get inspired and have some tips from which they can actually go and implement it. So Marta, as we're coming towards the end of the interview, it's a usual ritual which we ask all our guests their top 3 key piece of advice or takeaways they would like to give to our marketers working in the financial and technology space. So what are your pearls of wisdom going to be for our viewers and listeners?
Okay, that's a tricky one. Let's go for it. I think, first of all, my first piece of advice would be go for it. Very generally, but very true. Apply for the role. Put yourself forward for that project, even if you think you're not ready. If you've been putting in the work, if you think you like it, go for it. I think more often than not, it can make like a very interesting candidate if you can really stand out among others. I think my second piece of advice would be to network. I think networking is super important, and I mean within the company, and I don't mean try to find another job by networking. I mean within your company, make sure to network, make sure to know your audience, to know your stakeholders. And that would be not just within the marketing group and the marketing department. I think, especially in the fintech area, you need to be up to speed with the product, with the technology, with the latest updates. So make sure you know everyone. Like the more people, the better, because you never know who will speak highly of you, and that will really push you to the next challenge. And I think my last piece of advice could possibly be, and pretty much related to the previous two, to ditch the imposter syndrome and go for it. I think if there is lack of representation in your workplace, it doesn't mean that you cannot make it. You can still make it. Sadly, if you don't see good ratios of women or good ratios of Black people, or the LGBT plus community is not very public in your workplace, it still doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel that you wouldn't get a job. You can still get a job. More often than not, it might not be something conscious. So go for it. I think my piece of advice is go for it, ditch the imposter syndrome, and just make sure you're getting what you need.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marta. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure having this conversation. A lot to learn, very inspiring, and I'm sure some really handy tips which our viewers and listeners will find it useful.
Thank you for your time, Payal.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining us for this interview today. As always, please log on to www.fintechb2bmarketing.com to stay tuned with latest market insights that's relevant for you, for all our lovely fintech marketers out there. Until we meet with our next guest. Thank you.